Believe it or not, this music was made completely for free by Virtual Instruments, the recently released Berlin Free Orchestra from Orchestral Tools. I've spent a few hours composing with it, and I've learned a thing or two about how to get the very most out of this surprisingly powerful library. Check out these 7 tips for the Berlin Free Orchestra. Tip number 1, use the templates provided by Orchestral Tools. On the product page for the Berlin Free Orchestra, if you scroll down a ways, you'll find a couple links to download templates for Cubase and Logic. These templates are plug in and play. The instruments are set up and routed, tracks are colored, reverbs are added, and they even have expression maps and articulation sets. This saves you so much setup time, so you can skip to the good part and just start writing. Tip number 2, use the legato patches. This is one of the main selling points for the library, so it only makes sense to steer your compositions to take advantage of it. My favorite are the woodwinds. The solo flute and clarinet sound amazingly good for being free. I like the solo cello depending on the material, and I'm not as big of a fan of the solo violin, but give them all a shot and see what you think. Tip number 3, use shorts. Shorts, such as staccatos and spiccatos, are easier to program and achieve realism with. This is a general rule for all virtual orchestration, and with a free or limited library, it applies all the more. This is because when the company that makes the library records the musicians playing shorts, that represents the finished sample the composer intends to use, and doesn't require additional programming to simulate nuance and emotion. That's it, it's already good. Longs, on the other hand, require more effort on both the library's and composer's side to simulate realism. Dynamic changes over time, legato transitions, looping, stagnant sounding sustains, and more. Longs are much harder, even with top-of-the-line libraries. So with this starter orchestral library, you might consider steering your compositions to feature more shorts, which will sound better with less effort. Tip number 4, leave space between long notes. At some point, you're going to have to use some longs, and the legato patches in the library only cover so much. Most of the library's instruments only have polyphonic sustains. These aren't bad, but when you're trying to write a melody line, it can be hard to get it to sound convincing. Leaving a bit of space between each note can make a huge difference, especially for the brass section. You avoid the lack of legato transition samples by simply avoiding legatos altogether. Give it a shot. Tip number 5, use reverb. Reverb makes your samples sound better and more realistic. It can also help cover or hide weaknesses in your track, whether those weaknesses arise from the library's limitations, the composer's programming, or something else. The Berlin Free Orchestra doesn't have built-in reverb on the plugin like many virtual instruments do. The templates provided by Orchestral Tools do include reverbs on auxiliary tracks, so you're covered there. But if you're not using their templates, you can easily add your own. I recommend using sends and aux or effects tracks, as this gives you more control over the reverb's amount and color. Tip number 6, try disabling dynamic layers and round robins. I know this one's unusual. The dynamic layers and round robins are the things the library is proud of. It's what makes it different and better than the other free orchestral libraries out there. Well, let me explain. Something I noticed when checking out the library for the first time was how quickly the solo horn faded from piano to forte when fading up the mod wheel. I tried disabling the forte, and suddenly my horn was much more mellow, which fit my compositional intent better. Then later, I noticed one of the samples for solo bassoon staccatos sounded really honky. I tried disabling one of the samples in the round robin rotation, and voila! It sounded better in my opinion. This is not something I recommend doing all the time or across all instruments in the orchestra. Use your ears and try it out when it makes sense. And tip number 7, create your own second violin section. It's hard to say that the Berlin Free Orchestra has any flaws because, well, it's free, and so you can't really get mad at it for forgetting to include something that I think is vital. But the lack of a second violin section does stick out to me. So I thought, hey, we've got 8 violins in the first section, why not just duplicate the track and use it for the seconds? Now it's a bit more complicated than that. Simple duplication doesn't work because the same note played on both tracks not only sounds unrealistically similar, but it can even cause phasing issues. You need a new, distinct second violin section, not a second duplicated first violin section. So I tinkered around a bit, and through a combination of EQ, panning, and reverb, I think I managed to make this second track of violins sound fairly different from the original. Listen to this side-by-side comparison. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope these tips have given you some ideas about how to improve your sound when using this orchestra. Have fun composing, and I'll see you in the next one.